We live in extraordinary times. Our environment is changing rapidly. Where do you get your information? What facts do you rely on? Whom do you trust? Take climate change. What do you think its consequences are? What can we do about it, and how can we deal with its effects? At the Swiss Federal Institute of Forest, Snow and Landscape Research, WSL, we conduct research related to forests, landscapes, biodiversity, natural hazards, and snow and ice. Our goal is to better understand the relationships and processes within the terrestrial environment. How? By observing the facts.
Warum? Weil Wissen uns die Türen öffnet.
This knowledge forms the basis for sustainable environmental policies. This is the passion of my more than 600 colleagues as they work at our facilities in Birmensdorf, Davos, Cadenazzo, Lausanne, and Sion, and wherever their research takes them. At WSL, we observe and document our environment down to the last detail. We research processes and relationships in order to improve forecasts of future developments. Across Switzerland, we have over 6,000 research plots for long-term monitoring, and our labs are among the most modern of their kind. We are at the forefront of international research in our 5 research areas, and as a federal research institute, WSL is part of the ETH domain.
Unser Wissen geben wir weiter.
We convey our knowledge by teaching at universities, supervising theses, and presenting our research results to the public.
In Schrift und Bild für die Öffentlichkeit aufarbeiten. Und wichtig,
WSL is also a career springboard and a unique opportunity for people to get involved in the natural sciences. What about you? Are you ready to explore Switzerland? Let's take a short tour through WSL's research areas.
In 100 to 150 years, this will be a fully grown beech tree. Or maybe not. Beech trees are not made for the heat and droughts we expect for the future. We're in the midst of global problems that require science-based knowledge and concrete action. In forest research, we therefore work closely with practitioners. They need to know today which species will be viable in different locations in 100 years' time. Whether oak or white fir will have a better chance than beech or spruce. Nature doesn't need us to intervene. If one species fails, a new one prevails. Nature doesn't care, but we humans do. Our forest fulfills many essential functions. It serves as a filter, air conditioning system, and reservoir for carbon and water. It provides us with wood and protects us from natural hazards. The forest is also a recreational space, and its diversity is a source of wonder for us. In our unique plant protection lab, we scrutinize native and introduced organisms using the most rigorous safety measures. Some harmful microorganisms have yet to be identified, while others we know very well. These organisms are not welcome here because they would cause devastating damage to our native plants. This in turn would have severe ecological and economic consequences. The forest is WSL's largest research area. We cooperate with scientific institutions all over the world to study it. We research how adaptable our forests are. The annual rings formed by trees let us look back thousands of years. We investigate how we can manage forest resources sustainably, how the forest floor stores carbon, and the role of organisms. We know a great deal about the health of forests in Switzerland and how intensively we can harvest them while still avoiding negative consequences. Swiss wood is therefore always a good choice. The forest is important for Switzerland. Let's use it together sustainably.
Biodiversität ist überall.
Biodiversity is everywhere. It produces almost everything we need, including air and drinking water. It disposes of our waste, protects us from hazards, heat and disease, and helps us to relax, all at no cost.
The
value of biodiversity is immeasurable. It's our livelihood. Biodiversity is also a fascinating area of research. See for yourself. There are about 49,000 species in Switzerland. We're constantly discovering or accidentally introducing new species in Switzerland. New species can cause great harm. We study the behavior of these species in order to prevent or contain their spread where necessary. But we humans also do damage. A third of the species in Switzerland are threatened with extinction, which is largely our doing. We've destroyed about 90% of all Swiss peatlands. Today, however, we're smarter and know that peatlands are important for stabilizing our climate. We aim to avoid such disasters in the future. For this purpose, we build probability models and establish if-then relationships. We collect environmental and biodiversity data throughout Switzerland for these analyses. Look closely and you'll see fascinating cycles, like this one involving fungi, lichens, ants, and soil organisms. We keep an eye on the genetic diversity of individual species to facilitate the healthy mixing of genes between populations. Bridges are being built over barriers. In our research, we're interested in resolving the conflict between humans and nature. I'm driven by curiosity. The knowledge leads me to a more respectful and responsible relationship with nature. So my tip, stay curious.
Mit Lieben.
With kind regards from Switzerland.
Welches Sujet?
What motif would you choose? Where do you feel comfortable and where do you feel at home? In landscape research, we look at how people can adopt a lifestyle that conserves resources. Ideally, this lifestyle is also pleasant, healthy and relaxed, and it offers a balance of productivity and recreation. We measure landscape fragmentation, urban sprawl, light emissions, anything that changes the landscape. Are you happy? We want to know that too, and understand what you like or dislike about where you live. Surveys show that most of us prefer living in a village. Do you live in a village? Or has the village already turned into an agglomeration? Gas stations, supermarket, fast food restaurant, connections to larger towns, but still somewhat village-like. Such agglomerations are very typical for Switzerland. Almost 3/4 of the Swiss population live here. Many dream of family and a house in the countryside. Very romantic, but not the best model for our environment. How will it be possible to preserve Switzerland's identity without artificially conserving it and undermining development? What are the consequences for nature, biodiversity, and natural resources? We seek answers to these questions in order to develop scenarios for the future. Our findings provide the basis for the political and economic decisions that also lie in your hands. If, for example, the next vote is about a new road or railway line, pay close attention to how much space you may be giving away. Only those with a vision can make it a reality. That's why I'm asking you, what do you want the Switzerland of the future to look like? The chances of a rock coming loose at this moment and fatally injuring me are much lower than the chances of a traffic accident on the way home. Still, it's not a good idea to picnic here. Zero risk doesn't exist, and my life is too precious. As soon as the chance of dying from a natural hazard is greater than 1 to 100,000 on a road or railway line or a residential area, the state takes protective measures. The protective measures may cost up to 6.6 million francs per person who could have a fatal accident here. Strange, huh? Your life is precious, but to protect lives, we have to put a price tag on it. That's the only way to assess risk comprehensively. In alpine regions, everything wants to move downwards. Using experiments and simulations, we try to figure out how, when, and why this happens. Our Institute for Snow and Avalanche Research is internationally renowned. At the unique research site in the Vallée de la Sillon, we can even look inside avalanches. The data we obtain help us to better understand their dangers. Our avalanche bulletins are Switzerland's most reliable source of information on daily avalanche hazards, and yet every year an average of 23 people die in avalanches. Over 90% of avalanches are caused by people. That's also true for wildfires. They're becoming more frequent in Switzerland as a result of longer dry periods. Intact forests can save lives by serving as natural protection against rockfall and avalanches. Do you know the saying, when danger is far away, it's easy to be brave? There's truth in that. With our research, we help policymakers, the business community, and you to realistically assess dangers. Use common sense.
Ice and warm temperatures, a wonderful combination. But it doesn't last very long. Why am I telling you this? Because about 70% of all fresh water on Earth is frozen. I'm standing on top of a large freshwater reservoir. Switzerland's glaciers contain 4 times as much water as Lake Lucerne. The Swiss Alps are sometimes dubbed the water tower of Europe. But now the Swiss glaciers are melting, and by the end of the century, they could be gone. We're researching how glaciers change and what the consequences are. What solutions we can come up with to solve the problem. Frozen ground is called permafrost. When it thaws, it can become unstable and may cause landslides or rockfall. In Antarctica, the Arctic and even the Himalayas, there are larger glaciers than in the Alps. We make expeditions to understand them better. We bring back snow samples for testing in our labs. Snow is constantly changing. It may be hard and dense, or crumble like sugar. At altitude, it turns into fern and later into glacial ice. The snowpack stores water from the winter and releases it during the summer. The snow cover serves as a natural blanket for animals, plants, and the soil. It's also a base for skiing and snowboarding. And it can quickly turn into a dangerous avalanche. That's exactly why we want to understand how snow and ice behave, and what will happen when there's less or even no snow. What do you think? Should we switch to hiking, or keep skiing on slopes covered with artificial snow?
Konntest du von diesem Kurztrip etwas für dich mitnehmen?
And did you take something away from this short tour? Do you have questions for our research teams? Please write to us and follow us at WSL.ch.